So good evening and welcome to my video, my live presentation related to Bitcoin education. The title is Bitcoin, a financial, technological and energetic leap forward for humanity. In this video, this presentation, I try to reply to the question, what is Bitcoin? First, as always, disclaimer, this presentation is for educational purpose only, and it is not a financial advice. Then we move on with the references. I use the details from 5 different books. The first 3 are related to Bitcoin value, monetary value proposition. So the Bitcoin standard, the fiat standard. The third is the 7 property. Then it's also in the books that I recommend in order to understand Bitcoin in the 100 hours material we will see later on. Then there is one book related to the basic of Bitcoins and blockchain. It's a great book to explain why we have the blockchain and which is the purpose of blockchain. And then check your financial privilege, because it will be few slides related on this, because we are used to think that everyone is living in our same condition, but it's not. And then several articles mostly related to the energetic part proposition, because there are not really books on Bitcoin mining. So I took the best articles I read and I made the presentation on the energetical part. Okay, let's move on with the presentations. As you saw in the invitation, most of the people, they want to know when to buy and when to sell. And that's not the purpose of the presentation. I always never recommend when to buy, when to sell. I always recommend people to learn about Bitcoin. And this presentation is to make you curious, and then depending on which level you are in understanding Bitcoin, but making you more curious to understand and to learn more and more. And congrats to join the presentation also, because generally people are the live presentation, because generally people are interested when the Bitcoin price is at 40, 50, 60, and mostly barely no one is interested when it crashed. In fact, now in the general mainstream media, they say that or that Bitcoin is dead, or there is really no interest on Bitcoin. No one is talking about that. And important to note, it will be about Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is not crypto. Bitcoin is not crypto, it's not blockchain, and it's not DeFi. It's true that Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. It is also using the blockchain and is decentralized. But many people are trying to mix Bitcoin with all the other crypto coins and all the other applications the blockchain has, or all the projects in DeFi, decentralized finance. One thing is Bitcoin, and one thing is all the other stuff. If you hear or you read an article or watch a videos where someone is mixing them, and then this person didn't understand really Bitcoin, because it will never mix. What he can mix, he can correlate the market. For example, Bitcoin market crash was linked to also to the altcoin, and the same. For example, there was the Luna Terra meltdown in 2 months ago, and Bitcoin also went down. Last year, China banned Bitcoin, and Tesla said that they will not accept Bitcoin anymore. Bitcoin went down, and also the altcoins went down. The market is correlated, yes, but the purpose is completely different. And Bitcoin is one thing, and all the other crypto is another thing. Now, related to my experience, so I try to quantify all the time that I spend in Bitcoin. It was my passion in the last, I think, 2 years. And considering the books I read, videos, podcasts I saw from Michael Saylor, Robert Breedlove, Anthony Pompliano, Saif Din Amos is the author of the Bitcoin standard and the fiat standard, and Antonopoulos as well. I think it's around 600, 800 hours spent in learning about Bitcoin. And this is not considering learning about other crypto, the other use of blockchain, how DeFi is working, or which is the price, which will be the price in 2 weeks, in 2 months. No, it's only about Bitcoin. And from December 2020, when it started to go up, that's also a plus, then I follow the news daily. So I think also, for sure, in internet, there are a lot of people who have much more knowledge than me, but generally among your contact people, colleagues and contacts, it will be very likely that I'm the person who has more knowledge than anyone else. Let's move on then with Bitcoin. So let's start with the definition. According to Investopedia, Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, a virtual currency designed to act as money and a form of payment outside the control of any one person, group, or entity, and thus removing the need of third-party involvement in the financial transaction. It is rewarded to blockchain miners for the work done to verify transaction and can be purchased on several exchanges. This is the definition in Investopedia. I try to reply. For me, it is, and I will show why, it will be a financial, technological, and energetic leap forward for humanity, because it is three breakthrough in ones. Firstly, will be the monetary proposition. In fact, with its absolute scarcity and its properties that make it a perfect asset to be sellable across time, space, and scale, Bitcoin is the best form of money we have ever had, a breakthrough in the monetary history. This is the first, and we will spend about 35 minutes to discuss about this. Secondly, technological proposition. With the Bitcoin blockchain, we can finally send value digitally without the need of a central authority, and is a technological breakthrough. For this, I will spend 15 minutes, and I will also share other videos I made in order to deep dive the blockchain. I will share highlight information on the blockchain, because I want to spend time in the energy proposition, because it is also an energetic breakthrough. In fact, Bitcoin mining is the only technology that can make use of excess of energy, surplus of energy, and stranded energy. On top, it can reduce CO2 emission. It can help in preventing or fighting climate change. And I will provide all information about these three. Remember this, there are three breakthrough in ones. And remember these three parts. So let's start, let's continue with the introduction. If it is so important or so huge, why the question will be, why then is not so well recognized worldwide? The answer would be because it's very hard to fully understand it, and it is a new technology. Whenever there is a new technology, it's always hard to understand. Also, you can see in the left part, there are two videos I made in April. You can check in my YouTube channel. The difficulty in understanding new technology, part one, the car, and the second, electricity. Also the car, internet, the airplane, the electricity, the number zero. Now we saw that they are definitely superior to technology to any competition. If we think car and horse, there is no competition. The car is superior, but it took many years for people to understand that the car, it was superior technology. It also because technology advanced. The same electricity versus gas or versus normal candle for illumination. The same internet. There was a Paul Krugman said in 1998 that the impact of internet in our society will be similar to what he had the fax machine. And it was not in 1988. In 1998, there was already Windows 98. And still very smart people missed to understand new technology. So one thing is new technology, and then it's very hard. And Bitcoin is harder than the car, it's harder to understand than the car, than the electricity, than internet. So that is why at the moment, and it's not so much recognized worldwide. Also because it involves different subjects. Here I listed 12. You need to acquire knowledge in finance, economics, investing, monetary history, human psychology, philosophical politics, history, game theory, complex math, technology, computer science, and energy industry. As Michael Saylor said, at least 100 hours of study, of learning are required in order to appreciate Bitcoin, and many more to fully understand it. That said, this can discourage many people, but for me will be also a challenge, and it's so fascinating topic. Like I learned so much about Bitcoin. I spent so many hours because you can talk about the history of money, so like gold versus paper money, and then you can discuss about the blockchain, or you can discuss about politics if you want more social state or capitalist state, or you can discuss about energy industry, or you can discuss about computer science. It's always discussing about Bitcoin. I don't think there is any other subject that involves so many aspects. So keep this number in mind. It will be 100 hours. And people should not learn in one day or in 1 week, but it takes time to understand it. And I made also a video I share also in the PDF file in the WhatsApp group, which are the books, the videos, and the articles I recommend people if they want to learn about Bitcoin. And barely no one did this effort. And because it looks like that everyone is too busy with something else. Now, for me, I always saying you need, firstly, not having time is not an excuse. It's always about priority, and people should not learn in 1 day, 1 week, or 1 month. But my recommendation is always spend time in learning about Bitcoin. You can also go slow, but will be the technology that will change the world from monetary history, in my opinion. So it is very worth to spend portion of your time in learning. And what happened then? When people don't learn enough or don't spend time in learning, the average person is stuck with the misleading statements in the common narrative. Because generally in the common narrative, in the articles from economists and so on, there are so many misconceptions that if you don't study, then you are stuck with that. And you think that Bitcoin is not worth or it can be bad. And here I listed 20, and most of them I also made videos in order to debunk. You can find also in the PDF, and you can find also in my YouTube channel. And also I made a video the 30th of July, 16 videos to debunk 19 misconceptions on Bitcoin. And I think some of you already know some of them or heard about this. I listed the 20 that I'm mostly hearing. Let's then move to with the time. So with time, 1 by 1 will be debunked. For example, before it was used by criminals, and it was true 7 years ago, but now not anymore, and we don't hear this so much. Before it is untouchable, but now we are moving to a digital world, and people understand that we have so many digital things that it's normal that we will have digital money. And 1 by 1 will be debunked, but it will take time. And I put in the bottom left what Michael Saylor always saying, once you understand what Bitcoin is, you just wait the rest of the world to understand. And this is exactly what people who understood Bitcoin, also called Bitcoiners, are doing. We are patiently waiting that the rest of the world understand it, because we know that it's very hard, it's a new technology, so it takes time. And these are examples of videos to debunk the common misconception. You can find also in my YouTube channel, if you go in videos, you see here which is the date, and you can find it. Also in the PDF file, there is the list. Okay, let's now finish with the introduction. We start about the monetary breakthrough. So studying the history of money, the biggest criteria for a good or a commodity to become money was its salability across time, space, and scale. And salability represents the ease with which a good can be sold on the market whenever its holder desires, with the least loss of price. So that you should find someone to who you sell and with the least loss of price. And in fact, the salability is seen in 3 ways. Salability across time, because salability across time makes the good a store of value. A good store of value is immune, in fact, to deterioration, and the supply of it is not increasing too drastically during the holding period. Then we have salability across space that makes the good a medium of exchange, something commonly accepted in exchange for goods and services and recognized as representing a standard of value. Then the last one is salability across scale, makes a good unit of account a standard and numerical money unit of measurement of the market value of goods. Like we think in euro, we think in dollars, and then will be to think in Bitcoin. So this is very important that you understand. To be money, to be considered money now in human history, they should be sellable across time, space, and scale. They should store the value. They should be good medium of exchange and unit of account. Other important definitions are hardness of money and hard money. In fact, hardness of money represents the relative difficulty of producing new monetary units. Money whose supply is hard to increase is called also, in fact, hard money. And hard money has also high stock to flow ratio. Stock to flow ratio is the existing supply divided by the extra production that will be made in the next time period, generally considered a 12-month period. So how much is the supply? For example, I will also show later, for gold is about 60, and now Bitcoin is around 55. It means that the supply of Bitcoin is 55 higher of how much Bitcoin can be produced in 1 year. Let's move in the next step. Among the primitive form of money, there were ray stones in Yap Island, agri beads in West Africa, and seashells in Asia, Africa, Asia, and North America. Among metals, gold and silver were the most used as money. And this is also another important thing. The key reason why people decide goods or commodity to become money was because of this scarcity. That's the first thing. When we think about money, we should think about scarcity, because it was difficult to produce new money, where the production of new money will come at a cost. Scarcity not only means that there are few, but it's hard to produce more. It's hard to inflate the supply. This was the first reason why everything we use in our history before paper money to become money. That was the first. For sure, it should be also medium of exchange, unit of account, but the first, it was the scarcity. Among all, gold was the scarcest, with a stock to flow ratio at around 60, meaning that the supply of gold was 60 times higher than the new inflow of gold in a given year. Generally, the supply of gold increased between 1.5 to 2.5% per year. And this was the reason why gold became money. It's not because it's nice to wear, it has a good color, you can make decoration, you can use in industry. People who use these as reasons why gold become money, they don't know the history of money. Gold became money because it was scarce, and the producing gold, it was always hard. Through the years, in fact, gold was widely used in the creation of money, starting with gold coins in the Roman Empire and later in Florentine time during the Renaissance. Later on, paper money were created. Why they were created? Because gold had a very good property in scarcity, but it was not good in portability because it's hard to move. Paper money is easier, and it was not easy to divide. And that's why it was also used silver in order to divide for the small transaction. And later on, so then there was created paper money so that they were portable and divisible. So far, they were backed by gold. They were a good form of money. So gold was scarce, but not portable and not divisible. Paper money were backed by gold. So if they were backed by gold, means they cannot be more paper money than gold. And therefore, they were keeping the scarcity, plus they were portable and divisible. So it was a plus, it was an improve. And then we will see later on which was the threat. And this is, at that time, it was created, the term backed by. And now many people, they say, I don't believe in Bitcoin because it is not backed by anything. And this sentence just shows that this person has a poor knowledge of money, because money don't need to be backed by any government. It's just in the last 50 years or 80 years that we are using paper money, more and more paper without backing by gold. But in reality, money don't need to be backed by anything. It's the opposite. Paper money need to be backed by government because they are poor form of money, while the real good money should not be backed by anything. So if you hear someone is saying, I don't trust Bitcoin because it's not backed by anything, I recommend you to just dismiss whatever this person is saying on Bitcoin, because he has very poor knowledge on the history of money and he has no chance to understand Bitcoin. So the best period of the gold standard was between 1870 and 1914, when most of the countries were having their currency backed by gold. With the start of the First World War, countries went out from it in order to finance the war, not only by the current treasury, but with the wealth of the population, causing a huge inflation during and after the war. In fact, we saw that in the after the first war and after the second war, there was high inflation because the government didn't just use the treasury that they had, but they keep to print money, so devaluating the currency and using not only the treasury, but using the whole wealth of the country for the war. In fact, after World War I, Italy, Austria, Germany, they were suffering huge inflation. And the gold standard ended in 1971 under the presidency of Nixon. Money became fiat money. This year, you will hear a lot about 1971 from people in Bitcoin because it's when there was no more link from money and gold. And we had then fiat money that could be printed by a central authority as the Fed and with no correlation with the amount of gold stored. So 1971 is a big date in the history of money. From that time, the world experienced a disconnection between productivity and compensation, generating high inflation with the dollar losing its value more and more. You can see here in the picture that till 1970, you can see here, compensation was similar to productivity and wage as well. And then after 1970, a bit after, we start a big decorrelation where productivity went up, but wage and compensation didn't catch up. And the second part, you can see that the cost of living in 1970 and 2017. In 1970, the average income was $9,000. In 2017, it was 6 times more, 56. But everything went up more than 6 times, much more than 6 times. Home went up 15 times. And this is because new money were created and there wasn't any more the scarcity. And one of the 3 properties of money should be store of value. And think about one thing, the dollars, since when the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, lost 96% of its value. So the dollar the fiat money that we are having now, it's very good in medium of exchange in a unit of account, at least in the Western world, but it's very poor as a store of value. And the first property of money should be store of value. That's about the history of money. And I also made a video here, does good inflation really exist? Because we are, one of the reasons why it's very hard to understand Bitcoin is because we live in this Keynes economic system that we think is the normality, but it is wrong. We think that 2% inflation per year, it's normal and it's generate growth, but in reality is wrong. We should live in a world of deflation. I will share some videos, some links for videos where I will deep dive. Unfortunately, I cannot go deep in every single topic because otherwise we will take 4 hours. But think that the person think 2% inflation, yeah, it's good for the society. No, it is not good. We should not live in a world of inflation. Okay, let's then move to Bitcoin. First part was the history of money. Now we see what represents Bitcoin. So the Bitcoin represents the first truly digital solution to the problem of money in terms of salability, soundness, and sovereignty. It is highly sellable across space, scale, and time. And it has operated without any failure for the past 13 years. Till 2008, and then this will come back to blockchain, there were 2 categories of payment: cash payments carried out in person between 2 parties, and intermediate payments, which requires a trusted third party. Before Bitcoin, all digital payments were included in this category. So you need to have another party who is in charge of making sure that all the transactions are okay. Any form of electronic payments had to be carried out via an intermediary because the danger of double spending. After years of several trials and errors, Bitcoin was the first engineering solution that allowed for digital payments without having to rely on a trusted third-party intermediary. And the first part is about monetary, and the second is about the blockchain. And the intermediate payments take away a significant share of the property of money as a medium of exchange controlled by its owner. Let's now deep dive in the monetary part. So In Bitcoin, what is very important is that money supply growth is determined by a programmed function adopted by all members of the network. Exactly today, the 2nd of August, 91% of the 21 million Bitcoin have already been mined, with only 9% left to be mined. The scarcity is slightly increasing day after day, and is doubling every 4 years. This is due to the halving. That is a protocol that established that the rule that every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin given as reward for every block will be cut by half. And here you can see the total money supply that in the first years was increasing. And now we are already in 2022, in August, it's already 91%, and then it remains just 9%. And if you connect this with the importance of money, like as a scarcity, then Bitcoin is, in these terms, is the best form of money. At the moment, in fact, there are 6.25 Bitcoin per 10 minutes. In 2024, there will be 3.125 Bitcoin per minute. And the last Bitcoin will be mined will be 2,140. But also the 20th million of Bitcoin will be mined will be in 2025. Now in 2021, the annual growth rate of Bitcoin is 1.77%. And means that the stock-to-flow ratio is around 55, making Bitcoin similar to gold. But what is important is in 2024, it will be, and the growth rate will be 0.83%, making it the scarcest asset in the world. So there will be nothing competing with Bitcoin. Second, so this is for the scalability across time. Second, its digital nature make it easy to safely send worldwide, make it scalable in space in a way that we have never seen with other forms of money. Bitcoin allows humans to transport value digitally without any dependence of the physical world, which allow large transfer of sums across the world to be completed in minutes, making it a great medium of exchange. So it's also a great medium of exchange. It's not so much acceptable now, accepted by so many people because it is young, but it has all the potential to become a great medium of exchange. Furthermore, and this is also another, many people are saying, yes, but I cannot buy one Bitcoin. Its divisibility in 100 million Satoshis makes it sellable in scale. So you can buy one Satoshi that is much less than 1 cent now. And so every Bitcoin it can be divided in 100 million Satoshi. So it's very divisible. Also even more than the paper money. And then further, Bitcoin's elimination of intermediary control and the near impossibility of any authority debasing on confiscating it renders it free of the main drawbacks of government money. Being new and only beginning to be spread, the Bitcoin price also, many people complain about the volatility. Yes, it is high volatile. The volatility is higher than stocks and so on, but it's also because it is young and it takes time to Bitcoin to be accepted. When demand increase, Bitcoin price has fluctuated widely as demand fluctuates. When demand increase, also the supply cannot increase more than is programmed, and also the price will be increased. Now the volatility is higher, it's true, but it's just in the short-term period. As the market size grows, the volatility declines. As long as Bitcoin continues to grow in adoption, its appreciation attracts more adopters to it, leading to further appreciation, making these drops in volatility further away, meaning the volatility will decrease more and more. And also for every person who bought Bitcoin, apart of few days, every person who bought Bitcoin and hold it for at least 4 years, he always was in plus. It means that in the short term, yes, there is volatility, but in the long term, it is going up. And this is why many Bitcoiners are saying to people to understand Bitcoin, and if they think it makes sense also to invest, if they learn and they understand Bitcoin, but also they're always highlighting the long term. Many people think that Bitcoin is a get-rich-quick scheme. It is not. It is, if you buy in my opinion, if you buy Bitcoin for 6 months or 12 months, it's gambling. In the short term, no one knows where it goes. Many people pretend to know, but for me, no one really knows. Because last year when it was a 68K, many were saying 80K, 100K. Now it was a 17K, 18K. Many people were calling 10K, and it was at 23. All the Bitcoiners, all people who understand Bitcoin are always saying focus on the long term, and at least you should hold Bitcoin for 4 years. If you're not able to hold, psychologically able also with the volatility to hold for 4 years, then you're gambling, and then it's at your risk. And the volatility will go down, as I said, later when the adoption will be higher. In fact, there are 2 videos I made here. If you want to learn more about the programmed scarcity and what is the halving, that is how the technology that is making Bitcoin the most and the more scarcest asset in the world. Let's now deep dive a bit in scarcity. So the real scarcity, in fact, is not the limited amount of resources, but the amount of human time that is directed towards producing it. This is also very important. In fact, that is the only real scarce source. The only scarce source that we had is just the human time and effort. In all human history, we have never run out of any single material or resource. Also for gold or diamonds, there is plenty. And the price the price is virtually lower today than it was in the past due to our technology advance. The price to have to extract more of this material. In fact, the more we advance with technology, the more we can produce every material or metal. In fact, we have always increased the supply of the material we need. This also gold, if the gold becomes now, it's hard to produce, but if in case we move from $1,800 that is now to 10,000, then it will be much more profitable, and many people will go and try to produce more gold. And all what I said, it is true, but it is valid till the creation of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is different because the eternal dilemma humans face with their time concern how to store the value they produce with their time through the future. So the people always the dilemma with their time concern how to store the value they produce with their time through the future. At the end, also money, you can also say it's a store of time. For example, now we work, or 2,000 years ago, we were spending time getting something, and we need to hold the value of the time that we spent. The problem that we had with every single asset is that whenever we humans, we choose something as a store of value, its value will rise. And that's good, and because more of the object can always be made, others will produce more of the object to acquire the value stored on it. When gold was decided commonly that it was the store of value, it was money, then many more people went to try to produce more gold. This was the problem with every asset. And as I said, only gold was coming close to this to solve this problem, because it was people were producing it, but it was hard to produce. So it was still keeping the scarcity. And also thanks to its chemistry, making it impossible for anyone to inflate its supply so much more. And in fact, when we had gold, the gold standard was one of the most glorious eras of human history. But the move toward, but one of the things of the problem is that the move towards government control of gold soon limited its monetary role by replacing it with government issue money. Gold was not easy to, went to government control because it was not portable, it was not divisible, and therefore what it was not good for gold created the paper money, and paper money then lost the scarcity. So gold came closer, but with Bitcoin, in the first time of human history, humanity has recourse to a commodity whose supply is strictly limited. It's not just scarce, it's limited supply. And this is a breakthrough in the monetary history. It will be the perfect money as a store of value. We always looked for something that the scarcer it is, the better it is. So limited supply will be the perfection. And on top, there will be no government control. In fact, also for the limited supply, no matter how many people use the network or how much its value rises and how advanced the equipment used to produce it, there can only ever be 21 million Bitcoins in existence. As said at the beginning, the introduction of the concept of absolute scarcity is a breakthrough in the monetary history of mankind. I put also in red for the 3 parts the most important things, and this is the most important from money value proposition. That there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. I also made a video, the number 0 and the absolute scarcity of Bitcoin. It's also a very good article, and they show the relationship, also how 0 was a breakthrough 500, 700 years ago, and now Bitcoin is absolute scarcity is also another breakthrough. Sorry. And let's make a resume on the monetary properties of Bitcoin. We see that Bitcoin is the best form of money we have ever had. Here is from the book, The 7 Property. And you can see that there are, this is scarcity and durability will be store of value, acceptability, portability, a medium of exchange, divisibility and fungibility, unit of account, and then also immutability. And Bitcoin is the best a part of acceptability. It is not so good in acceptability because it's young. Gold has 5,000 years of history, and paper money hundreds of years. Bitcoin has only 13 years. But in all the other properties, scarcity, divisibility, portability, durability, sorry, fungibility and mutability, Bitcoin is the best. And that is why people who are saying that Bitcoin is the best form of money is why they are saying this. It's about the properties. And I made also video Bitcoin sent from my money as money from Miami to Poland. It was sent in just few minutes, and we don't have a technology now able to send with low fee to send money across countries in such fast and with low fee. Now we finished the first part of the monetary. I will make one. This is from the book, Check Your Financial Privilege. Another thing, so as store of value, I hope it is clear that it's the best form of money, and there should be no discussion. But as a medium of exchange, many people say, yes, but we have dollars and euro. It's very easy. We have MasterCard, Visa. It's very easy to transact. So we don't need Bitcoin. And this is, as medium of exchange, is partially true in the Western world. But we are not all living in the Western world. In fact, we think that our situation is the normality and we give it for granted, but it is not. What we see in the world is in 2021, we had 13% of the world population being born into the dollars, euro, Japanese yen, British pound, Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, or Swiss franc. And 87% being born into autocracy or considerably less trustworthy currencies. So not as good currencies as we have in the Western world. As of December 2021, we have also 4.3 billion people living under authoritarism and 1.6 people living under double, triple digit inflation. And related to accessibility, we see that while 1 billion people currently have access to banking, credit, and international finance capabilities, 6.5 billion have no connection to the world of money. Out of these 6.5 million, 2 billion have access to the internet. And the Bitcoin revolution, also in this term, is that anyone with access to the internet can now participate in Bitcoin, a new money system with equal rules for all the participants, running on a network that does not center or discriminate, used by individuals who don't need to show a passport or ID, and held by citizens in a way that is hard to confiscate and impossible to debase. And in the book, in fact, the Check Your Financial Privilege is explaining stories in 6 areas: Nigeria, Sudan, Ethiopia, the African countries using CFA franc, Cuba, and Palestine. And there are 2 potential impacts. People who have internet and no access to banks can now save in Bitcoin, and money also are sent from abroad cheaper and faster. I will make a video. It's a video that will be released the 6th of August related to Bitcoin in not financial privileged countries. So if you are interested, you can learn more there. Now, let's start the second part for the monetary history. We're drinking a bit before. So discussing about the monetary value proposition of Bitcoin, we should also spend some time in the economic theory behind it. And in fact, the monetary proposition is based on the Austrian schools of economics, a school that was considering soundness of money very important, and where the state should not have the power to manipulate the money and the interest rate, but where the market was deciding which will be the best price. For this school, it was important that the market decide the price because knowledge is distributed and is very important. It's like Wikipedia. And regardless how smart and knowledgeable were the people in charge of central planning, they had no chance to know which will be the best price. In fact, socialism failed mostly because of this, because everything was planned by the government and no one could have been knowledgeable enough to decide the price of the goods. And according to their system, also there was also, while in the socialist part, they were saying they were trying to find the equilibrium. For the Austrian school economic, there was never really equilibrium between supply and demand, but supply and demand were always looking for it without finding a perfect equilibrium. It was always temporary, or supply increase demand or demand increase supply, always trying to find an equilibrium. And the most important people in the Austrian school economic were Menger, von Mises, and Hayek, or von Mises. Keynes, unfortunately, governments adopted Keynes' theory of economics, not because this is important, not because he was the best, but because he was giving them the power to create and to manipulate the supply of money and the interest rate. In fact, according to Keynes, the state should be in charge of the money and increasing the money supply, and this will cause expansion and growth, while saving money was seen as counteracting the growth and the expansion. With this system, the banks were able to give loans not backed by money from the depositors, another way to create money, also called fractional reserve banking. Why the Keynes economics is wrong? First is because creating more piece of papers don't increase society's physical capital stock, but devalues the existing money supply and distort the prices. So every time we increase the price, we are not doing good for the society or just in the short term because we think that everyone has more money, but in reality is devaluing and distorting the price. Increasing the money supply also was the biggest reason of the biggest recessions we had. We had the recession 1929 and 2008. In fact, during the 1920s, the money supply increased by 68.1%, while gold expanded by 15%. And this was the first cause that created the bubble. Then when people realized that the credit will not be able to be repaid, it created the crash. Secondly, the fractional reserve banking was the root cause of the meltdown of the banking system in 2008, while banks were giving money to everyone, creating new money without being backed or just 10% from real money or from money from the depositors. In fact, by devaluating the currency, both our saving and our salary decrease in purchasing power. We see especially in 2022, increasing the inequality because the most hit by this phenomenon are the low-income families. The low-income families who don't have assets and who live paycheck to paycheck, and they don't have a big chance to have such an increase of salary. They don't have fat assets like stocks or real estate, and they see their purchasing power going down and down. With money depreciating in a value, we become more short-term thinking. And last but not least, with central banks likely to bail out banks take excessive risk in their investment. Because banks, they know that there will be the central bank bailing them out. So they also took excessive risk, more and more money in the society, and then create the bubble explodes, and then we have big issues. Let's see now a world with Bitcoin as money. As I said, this is the last slide for the monetary. Bitcoin is very hard, not just because it's complex, but it makes us rethink the monetary system. We are used to think, and me as well, before understanding Bitcoin, that the society we live is the normality, is where it's normal that the government print money and this generate growth, but it is not true. Now let's I will do a short introduction of Bitcoin. Firstly, it is very counterintuitive, and this is why it's so hard to understand. We would have the best with Bitcoin, we would have the best form of money. In fact, with programmed scarcity and fixed supply, with money appreciating in value and people focusing on savings and lowering the time preference, triggering long-term thinking and the flourishing of society. Now, don't try to understand all this, what I'm saying, because it's just make you curious that it is not what it should be, or what it is. The reality is not the best form of money. It's not the best situation that we should have. And we call the time preference the ratio of which the individuals value the present compared to the future. Lower time preference is the essence, in fact, of investing. With the humans, delay immediate gratification and investing time and resources in production of goods, with which will make the production more advanced and allow the society to flourish. For example, people decide to study at university, so to delay to have a salary in order to have a better future. The Bitcoin monetary value proposition and the difference between Keynes theory and Austrian School of Economics are very complex topics, and several hours of study are required to understand it at a good level. People can react, yes, but if we don't print more money, then this will be no growth. But it is not. We think this because we are using this scheme. In reality, it is not. And to understand it better, firstly, you can also watch 6 videos I made. These are 4 lectures and 6 videos related to the history of money. And also you can read the Bitcoin standard and the fiat standard. This is and the 7 properties as books. And these you need time to spend on these topics in order to understand which will be the real situation, the better situation for us. Last but not least, before going to the breakthrough, before doing the short break and going to the second breakthrough technology, let's watch these videos where Hayek is one of the most important person in the Austrian Economic School. He was also in 1974, he was a Nobel Prize in Economics. It was an interview of him in 1984. So 10 years after he won the Nobel Prize. One second. Okay. Okay. And with that, we finish the first part. So we are now we'll now start with the second part. And the second part will be the second breakthrough will be the technology. Oh, sorry. Okay. And important is contrary to popular belief, Bitcoin didn't come out from nowhere. And this is also something I was thinking at the beginning, and I hear from many people. They're saying that they don't trust because it's coming from nowhere. In fact, the idea of digital cash has a long and rich history. Most notably, a loose collective known as the cyberpunks who wrote at length about digital anonymous cash, how such system might be realized, and the societal implication of strong cryptography in general. That's why they had the names cyberpunks. This was what existing before. And they were more focusing on having something out of government control than the monetary part. And in fact, also, while Bitcoin is a breakthrough in many ways, it is very important, all the technical parts that make it work did exist already. In fact, public key cryptography, peer-to-peer networks, digital signatures, cryptographic as functions, timestamps, hash chains, and proof of work. These are all terms you will hear if you want to learn about blockchain, and they were not invented with Bitcoin. Satoshi Nakamoto or the team behind him or her, we don't know exactly who and how many they are, or who is or who she is. They did not invent any of this. They were all existing. In fact, Satoshi did not invent any clever new algorithm or cryptography primitive. Instead, he found a way to combine existing technology in an ingenious way, using economic incentives and game theory to bootstrap and secure the system. We can see here Bitcoin prehistory. This is a really, I love this graph. It was in the article Bitcoin is an idea. And Bitcoin prehistory is as long as it's fascinating. Satoshi was able to build upon various technologies and protocols, some of which go back 50 years and more. And also, while 50 years may be a long time in technology, the heart of cryptography is way more ancient than that, dating back as far as 19 BC. It's hard to say what was the most building blocks were, but the most fundamental ones, technology, are probably digital signatures in 1976 and public key cryptography in 1978. These were created almost 50 years ago. Without this, Bitcoin will not work, or will work with different technology. Maybe it will not work as internet, the internet money. And I made another video related to the perfect money after 40 years of research and development. This was released on the 28th of March. You can watch this if you are more interested in this. Various digital cash systems have been developed before Bitcoin. Also, one thing, there were more technology, and there were already tentatives of making digital money. All of them failed eventually, and all for similar reason. There were 6 in particular interesting. In 1992 was eCash, then eGold in 1996, Hashcash by Adam Beck that introduced the proof of work, BitGold by Nick Szabo, 1998, in the same year B-Money, and then reusable proof of work by Hal Finney in 2004. And Hal Finney is a very important person in the Bitcoin world because he was the first person after Satoshi Nakamoto in January 2009 that was running Bitcoin, that was mining Bitcoin. And what I want to say with all this information is that Satoshi Nakamoto, or the team behind him, was standing on the shoulders of giants who have built several different technology previous to him. He combined all of them. He had the difficulty adjustment, and the result was to have magic internet money, the best form of money humanity has ever had. This is one of the most important concepts related to the blockchain. And most of the previous money failed for 2 reasons. Firstly, it was hard to create in money supply. The money supply will decrease over time. And Satoshi Nakamoto invented the difficulty adjustment. And the second, that they were all centralized. So the only thing that really was revolutionary from Satoshi Nakamoto was the difficulty adjustment. Once, if you watch videos on blockchain, then I will discuss this more. And related of the history of digital money, I made a video the 17th of July, released on the 17th of July, speaking about each of these form of money. What was that and why they failed? This is the, if you see red, it means that is the most important part for technology, and for the respective part. We are in the technological part, so it will be for this technology. Which is the problem that Bitcoin is trying to solve? The problem is that till 2008, we had only two ways. Firstly, we can transfer value or cash, giving money physically, carried out in person between two parties, already discussed at the beginning, or intermediate payments, which require a third party. Bitcoin solves the double spending problem. And I also made a video on this double spending problem. It prevents that without a third party, money can be double spent. Problem also known as the Byzantine generals problem is also a special condition of a computer system where the system actors must agree on a concerted strategy. But some of these actors are unreliable. It's like to have some generals attacking a city, you can see here in the bottom left, where how they can agree on a time. They can send messengers, but they are not sure if the messenger arrive, and if the other generals understood, is sent to another message. So they need to find a way to agree. And this is a situation in computer science. So far, the biggest issue we had, or the problem that Bitcoin solved, is that with digital money, we always have to trust a third party, a bank or PayPal. With Bitcoin, we can send money without, we can send value or money without a third party. And from technological perspective, in my opinion, this is a breakthrough. It's a breakthrough that will change the course of history. When Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press, or when the first steam engine, or when the first car, or when Edison invented electricity, or when the first airplane was invented, all this date, at all this date, the course of humanity changed. It just took time for the world and for the average person to understand that the new technology would have changed the world. And this is, for me, will be what is Bitcoin is doing in these centuries. I think there are two important dates. 31st of October 2008 is when Satoshi Nakamoto sent the email to the cyberpunks with a white paper of Bitcoin. And by most important is the 3rd of January 2009, when the protocol of Bitcoin started. And the first 50 Bitcoins, every 10 minutes, 50 Bitcoins were mined. On the 3rd of January of 2009, for the first time, value was transferred virtually, digitally, without the third party. And this changed the course of humanity. In my opinion, it's just the rest of the world need to understand it. And Bitcoin, let's move now to Bitcoin goal. The goal of Bitcoin is moving then to a decentralized world, what banks and PayPal are doing to update their ledgers once payments are made. And the blockchain is the technology used by Bitcoin to reach the goal and solve the double spending problem. So also Satoshi Nakamoto didn't mention the blockchain, is a term that came later. Satoshi was referring to time stamping. So the blockchain is the technology that allows to send value digitally without third party. And I made also one of the videos is called The Time in the Decentralized World. It is also how the geniality of Satoshi that he create the time in the centralized world. And this is the most difficult things to do, to create the time in a world that it is decentralized. Here, there are 10 steps to reach a perfect decentralized system. I made, firstly, let's move in this step, then I will go back to the 10 steps. If you want to learn more about the blockchain, I made a video here related to the blockchain in June. And then I already registered 15 videos coming in August explaining the blockchain step by step. So you have both one video that is 1 hour about the blockchain, is a bit of every step. And then there are 15 videos focusing in every single step. First, it will be which is the double spending problem. And then it will be the introduction. Then I explain hash functions and public key cryptography. That are two technologies very important to learn. And then there will be one video for each of these steps. The first issue will be, imagine that we are a bank, but we need a centralized bank. The first, we need accounts that need permission authentication. What Satoshi is doing is using public keys as account numbers. Then the transaction need to be authenticated. And this is why I use digital signatures that were already created more than 40 years ago in order to authenticate transaction. We have a single central bookkeeper who is ordering all the keeping the order of the transaction, and then the solution will be replicate the books. How we order exactly the transaction? Instead to order the transaction, we will have to order blocks, and blocks are containing also the transaction. But to create blocks, who can create block and how often? Not for sure, not a centralized authority. Then there will be proof of work, and this is taken from Hashcash. Is the tentative to create money in 1998. But then proof of work, you also heard that it costs electricity and time. How we incentivize the people to create money? We have block rewards and transaction fees. The miners are receiving Bitcoin in order to create blocks and to validate the transaction. But then there will be more hashing, faster blocks, and more monetary supply. If we go with the technology we advance, generally, as we advance with technology, it will be easier to create more money. And this was one of the problems why other monies failed, because whatever functions you find, in the future, there will be more important computers, more powerful computers, it will be easier. So money will be created faster. And this is the only special things that Satoshi introduced new. No one else was able to come with this. The difficulty adjustment. It takes, in the last 2 weeks, the average. If the time of the block, it was to create a block was higher, it means that the difficulty will decrease because it should be easier to find a block. But imagine that the computers are going faster and faster. It will, instead of 10 minutes, it will take, let's say, 9 minutes to mine a block. After 2 weeks, the difficulty adjustment will increase so that the time it will be kept. And then we have the programmed scarcity, we have the halving, and Bitcoin will be scarcer and scarcer. Then we have the topic of block ordering, is a blockchain. And then how we reach consensus will be the longest chain rule. And the last one, we can have this double spend problem in the short term, but it will be debunked after 6 blocks, so 1 hour. So if you're interested, there will be these 15 videos coming all in August. You can watch one by one. Everyone is 5, 10, or maximum 15 minutes, and you can learn the basic of the blockchain. That said, is from technological perspective. I didn't study computer science, and I am not able to explain, and also I don't have so much knowledge what is the code, exactly the code, but I know what is the technology behind. And most of the people you will hear, they are impressed how Satoshi or the team were able to get so many things right in one shot. There were some upgrades or updates on Bitcoin, but they were just minor things. The supply cap, proof of work, difficulty adjustment, how to use digital signature. The whole core design remain always the same and will always remain the same, including proof of work. And people are so impressed, people who understood the blockchain, how can be that in one shot, a person or a group or a team got so many things right. It's very fascinating. I think this is also important to understand in order to understand Bitcoin, but the monetary proposition is more important, because if you don't understand the problem that is we are trying to solve with the fiat money is not the best money that we have. We should have better money, then it's hard to understand Bitcoin. And the blockchain is the tool that allow Bitcoin to keep the scarcity and to move the value without third party. That's the second part. I kept it short. We could go further and explain step by step, but I leave to you. I hope this video is making you curious and learn more. Why I'm stopping here? Because it's very important for me to explain the third breakthrough, energy consumption and the energy consumption. Because what I hear so far, and I was also thinking that maybe 1.5 years ago, that nonetheless, Bitcoins are so many good things. There are some bad things, like Bitcoin mining consumes too much energy, and Bitcoin mining is bad for the environment. But these are just misconceptions. And in my opinion, it will be the biggest and hardest misconceptions that are now in the Bitcoin world, and it will be hard to be debunked, because people need to have knowledge of energy industry and also in the blockchain. In fact, according to the common narrative heard from the common person, Bitcoin is consuming too much energy as bad for the environment. And to understand it, the reality that is Bitcoin mining is good for the society and will help to fight climate change, a person should know how blockchain work and also how Bitcoin mining works and the energy industry. So one side blockchain, Bitcoin mining, and the second the energy industry. And barely no one took the time to understand it. So that's why people are stuck with the misconception what they hear. Because if you don't know more better, then tendentially your thoughts are the same of what you hear. And generally, also in the newspaper from very credited journalists, they are saying this. Everyone who is saying this has a poor knowledge of Bitcoin mining and blockchain. So I recommend just to dismiss whatever they say on Bitcoin. I also made a video called Energy Use. Are the experts always right? There were two experts, one from the World Economic Forum. They said in 2017, they said that if Bitcoin is going like that, the Bitcoin mining in 2020, it will consume the total energy of the world. What happened? In 2021, it consumed 0.1%. So these people, they were very knowledgeable on the economic system. They had literally no clue to discuss about Bitcoin, but they made important statements completely wrong, because they said that they will consume the total amount of the world, the 100% what we had in 2017, and we end up with 0.1% 2021. So not always, the experts are not always right. And another important thing that I hear sometimes Bitcoin the cost of a transaction, it is X, it costs X dollars, X euro in electricity, and so on. And if you hear this person making the cost of a transaction, this person has also very poor knowledge of Bitcoin blockchain, because the cost is related to Bitcoin mining and to validate the transaction. We could have 10 times more transaction, Bitcoin 10 times more the value, and the cost will be can be the same. It's not that if the cost of Bitcoin is 10 times more, then the cost of transaction will be 10 times more. They are two different things. The miners are spending electricity to validate the transaction. And this is regardless how many transactions are in the block. This is important. If you hear someone saying the Bitcoin cost for transaction, just this person has a poor knowledge of blockchain and energy industry. Let's start now with the definition. So Bitcoin mining is the process of verifying new transaction to the Bitcoin digital currency system, as well as the process by which new Bitcoin enter into circulation. Some characteristics are the following. Also here, you don't have to, if you, depending on which understanding you have, don't focus on understand everything, will be to grasp the highlights and then to be more curious and to learn more in the next days, weeks, or months. Some characteristic of Bitcoin mining is every 10 minutes, a new block is created and miners spend energy in order to find a hash that is lower than the target. In this presentation, I will not go into deep on how Bitcoin mining works, and I discuss about this, in fact, in the video, the blockchain, how Bitcoin mining work. There is also in August will come one of the video is proof of work, and this will be the focus of the Bitcoin mining. And also important, the higher the difficulty adjustment it is, then the more energy is needed. It's not that we have more transaction. It's not directly related. And also, as I said, important to highlight, the amount of energy required is independent from the amount of the transaction. As I said, people who are connecting this, then they don't have a good knowledge of Bitcoin mining. And also another important video is a video I released on Saturday, 3rd of July, related the difference between proof of work and proof of stake. Proof of stake is much more user-friendly, energy-friendly, user-friendly from energy because it consumes much less energy. But every person who is saying that Bitcoin mining should move from proof of work to proof of stake simply doesn't have a clue of Bitcoin or has a very poor knowledge of Bitcoin. Some Bitcoiners are saying it's like you want to go from London to New York, you can use the plane. Yes, it consumes more energy. Or you can use another way of transportation that is energy friendly. You can use the bicycle. Yes, what you will use? You use the plane. You cannot go with a bike from London to New York. So proof of stake is not decentralized, and is not the tool that we need in order to have the possibility to send money without a third party. But you can also watch the video for the 3rd of July if you're interested on this. I think you heard as well that Bitcoin should move to proof of stake. I recommend you to see this video. Let's continue with some data. So which are the data of Bitcoin mining? These data are coming from the Bitcoin Mining Council called BMC. It represents 14.5 mining companies and around 50% of the global Bitcoin mining networks. And every quarter they release the new data of Bitcoin mining. In September, there will be 7 videos related coming from Bitcoin mining. And then the 1st of September, there will be also the more information related to this council. What we know is the global Bitcoin mining consumes 0.16% of the world's total energy production. The total world energy is 154,000 terawatt hour, and Bitcoin mining is 247, so 0.16. Related to CO2 emission, Bitcoin mining is consuming 0.085% of the total consumption of CO2. We can see later in the 3rd slide that Bitcoin mining is more sustainable than any other country. We have Germany that is the most sustainable, but Bitcoin mining is more sustainable. US is more than 30%, Bitcoin mining is 58%. So Bitcoin mining is more sustainable than any other country. In the 4th slide, we can say that Bitcoin mining energy consumption is much lower than any other industry. Here is Bitcoin mining, these are all the industry. Then we can see year over year that in Q1 2022, electricity consumption decreased 25% and hash rate increased 23%. This is because mining efficiency increased 63% and sustainable electricity increased 59%. Increasing efficiency 63% in 1 year is something huge, something you cannot hear in any other industry. Already 5%, 10% efficiency, it will be huge. And for Bitcoin, it was 63%. And that is why nonetheless the hash rate increase, and it means the energy you need, but the mining, the energy decreased because the computer and the technology advanced in order to mine the blocks. And the forecast for the next 8 years, we will have a 6x improvement in mining efficiency and 4x improvement in reducing energy consumption. So it's a tremendous improvement in energy efficiency. So these are the data. You see the total consumption is 0.16 and the CO2 is 0.09. And now let's look which is the energy that Bitcoin is taking, because it's not that much, but it is like which is the energy that Bitcoin is taking. And this is the energetic breakthrough. In fact, it's now time to discuss about energy. A common misconception about energy is that energy is scarce and limited. In fact, in the popular imagination, the Earth has a limited supply of energy that humans consume whenever they heat or move anything. In fact, for mainstream academia, energy is a zero-sum game whereby any individual consuming energy in the world is taking it away from others. For the normal average person, let's say, who has not big knowledge on Bitcoin, Bitcoin mining is using energy that will be used for residential, industrial, and healthcare purpose. Therefore, the misconception, Bitcoin uses too much energy. People think, okay, it's use energy that we can use in the hospital, in the residential, in the industrial. apart of the fact that Bitcoin will change the monetary world and will make the world a better place. So it will anyhow make sense if you really understand Bitcoin. But a part of this is Bitcoin is not using this energy. And I will explain why. And this is also another very important misconception to the bank. In reality, the total amount of energy resources available is practically infinite. For example, hourly solar energy that hit the Earth is more energy than the entire human race consume in 1 year. And the rivers that run every hour or every day also contain more energy than the global energy consumption. So the energy mathematically is not infinite, but practically is infinite. The limitation on energy is how much time humans dedicate towards channeling the energy resources from places where it is abundant to places where it is needed. This is why it is limited, because how much time and energy and resources humans dedicate toward channeling this energy. And this is important that you understand which are the mixed conception with the reality, because from this, then we can build the next one. And the next step is, firstly, the cost of energy is not coming just from the energy, but also transportation costs. That with energy that needs to be transported where it is needed at the right time and at the right intensity. From energy point of view, the big, and this is also it is read is the most important part of the energetic part. The Bitcoin mining breakthrough is that it does not require power to be transported. It can buy the power anywhere it is available. All what miners need are an internet connection and a supply of energy. It is the only technology that works in that way. Before Bitcoin mining, there were no technology that were available to buy and to create electricity and use there, because you need always to transport, and transport is very costly. So it was making this unprofitable. Bitcoin is the only technology that allows to that we don't need transportation, and we can use the energy wherever it is. And the implication of this breakthrough are huge and are only beginning to be understood. Now we are hearing some energy company making pilots and trying to use energy. I assume 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now, when the world will understand Bitcoin mining, then there will be around like people, energy company will always try to use Bitcoin mining as much as possible. In fact, Bitcoin mining is the only technology that can channel energy coming from stranded energy, excess and surplus of energy. And we will see all these cases. So there will be, we have a lot of wasted energy, is excess plus surplus, and then we have stranded energy. And Bitcoin mining is the only technology that can make use of this energy. Also, and let's discuss now how Bitcoin mining use. Let's start with looking for cheap energy. The consequence, in fact, of this breakthrough is that Bitcoin miners will inevitably consume cheap, wasted and stranded energy with zero opportunity cost. Why? And this, you should know a bit of the Bitcoin, blockchain in order to understand. But the difficulty adjustment is always, due to the difficulty adjustment, Bitcoin is consistently profitable only for miners who use the electricity, who is much cheaper than the majority of the world electricity price. Let's look at the next step to understand why. We have, in fact, the miners. So the miners are competing to create blocks and are using electricity at different price. With more competition of miners, difficulty adjustment increase, making unprofitable and therefore out of business the miners who buy electricity at the current average price. The current average price is 14 cents per kilowatt hour. At least was last year. Now let's not discuss about the price of electricity in 2022. This disconnected. Let's consider in 2021. And while the cost of wasted and stranded energy will be around 0.05 kilowatt hour, dollars per kilowatt hour. So it means if you have the same difficulty, there will be only the miners who use cheap energy profitable, while the others will spend much more and therefore will not be profitable. That is why Bitcoin miners will be pushed to use cheap energy that is coming from wasted, excess or surplus, or stranded energy. And this is why also it is not true that Bitcoin is consumed too much energy, because the energy used for Bitcoin mining is not the energy used for our houses, for industrial, and for healthcare to make the hospital functioning. Is another energy. And you can see here two videos I made. They will come in August. One, it will be the difficulty adjustment, also related to blockchain, how it works. I think it's better that you know this in details in order to understand Bitcoin mining. And then a comparison between the difficulty adjustment and a real example is Royal. That is from looking for cheap energy. Now let's look at the first form of energy, that is an existing energy asset with excess capacity. With excess capacity, like energy grids, upstream oil and gas, nuclear, seasonal energy source like hydro, and intermittent energy source like solar and wind. It is the only technology that can use excess energy, because Bitcoin mining is a series of uncorrelated competition that is, each competition is 10 minutes. So it's like a lottery, Bitcoin mining. Every 10 minutes, there is a new lottery. So you can mine 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. In a hospital residential, you need you cannot have this flexibility. That is the reason why Bitcoin miners can work 2 hours per day, 4 hours per day, or can decide the same day if they work 2 hours or not. And with this property, because it is all unrelated competitions of 10 minutes each, Bitcoin mining can balance out the fluctuating energy supply from renewables. Once connected to the grid, in fact, miners can balance out the fluctuating energy supply. They are a responsible consumer of energy, mining Bitcoin during the times of low demand. So when you have the same supply, if you have a high demand, then there will be no Bitcoin mining. When there is low demand, then instead of decreasing the supply, losing profitability, so they can keep producing energy, but portion of this energy will be used to mine Bitcoin, making the business more profitable. And this energy is all renewable. And also, in fact, they can serving the grid during time of peak demand. This ensures other electricity customers do not suffer rolling blackouts. Utility, in fact, call this a controlled load resource, and miners are a fast responding large-scale source. Here you can see the example of solar energy and energy. For example, you can see also energy need for heating. For solar energy is mostly channeled during the day, but it is used in the evening for illumination. And Bitcoin mining can use the excess of energy during the daytime, also for the heating. Energy must be available during the warmest date of the years, because many people will ask for heating. But Bitcoin can use the extra supply during the warm days. So the companies can still keep the supply, and instead of reducing the supply, they will provide a portion for the low demand and portion to Bitcoin mining. Now it's time to see the second video. Give me 1 second. Fly me to the moon. This is the guy. Is the crypto miners help? How crypto miners help ERCOT, renewable energy energy operational? Is saying the interim CEO.
It's an amazing opportunity here in Texas. So as you know, we've got a lot of renewable potential in Texas. We've got great sun, great wind. We want to bring in as much of that as we can into the state. Now we have to make sure that we have the other elements to also balance it when those pieces aren't there. But we're very, very positive about the interest we have in renewable development in Texas. Along with that is coming a great deal of new batteries, battery storage. It's going to help us to manage that grid in the future. We think in the next year we'll have over 3,000 megawatts of batteries in Texas. As you mentioned, Bitcoin is also interesting, or let's call it, I think cryptocurrency is what a lot of folks call it. Cryptocurrency creates this great opportunity for us. As we get more and more renewable generation, in particular wind, and wind is operating at night, we have an excess amount of wind, and we need to find a home for that. Otherwise, we just have to turn the wind down, and it's such a great resource, we shouldn't be turning it down. So crypto has found a way to come into our market and to take some of that excess wind in off-peak periods. And then when we get to peak period times, they're very quick to remove themselves from the market as prices increase. So it's a great opportunity for us. So the more demand, to the degree that it's flexible, that it can turn down whenever we need the power for other customers, is fantastic. As I said, we can use that cryptocurrency to soak up the excess generation when there's a lot of that, and really provide a home for more and wind and more solar to come to our state. And at the same time, it reduces their consumption during periods where we get tight and we need the power for other customers. So it's a great balancing act. Now, what we have to do in Texas is figure this thing out, right? It's new. A lot of the solar is new, the batteries are new, and this cryptocurrency is new. So we have to find a way to really utilize it within our system most advantageously. One of the things that we're currently looking at is that these loads come in a very large way. So we have to figure out ways to make sure that we're putting them at the right location and that we can build out our transmission grid to accommodate them. But let me give you a sense of the size. You're in Austin today. The entire city of Austin consumes on average about twice the amount of energy as one of these cryptocurrency facilities. So cryptocurrency is about half the size on average as the city of Austin. That gives you the scale. So we have to make sure that when these things are coming on and off the grid, that we have the other tools available to us, because as you can imagine, two children sitting on a seesaw. If one of them jumps off, there's going to be imbalance. So we have to make sure that we can balance these in the right way. That's what we're working on today. So when
I think that's okay, it's enough. And I think it's enough to understand the breakthrough of the technology. That is the only technology that can balance the grid. It's for the first part. Also, there will be a video related in September coming, excess of energy and stabilizing the grid. It will be focused only on this. If you want to learn more, please refer to this video. Let's move to the next one. I said the excess of energy. Then I said now stranded energy, also called untapped energy. So the second case, this is the second case. It represents the energy sources that are far away, at least 500 kilometers from civilization, and therefore is not used because transportation costs will be too high to make the use of energy profitable. It is also called untapped energy because it has been harnessed yet. Examples are geothermal energy from volcanoes, mountainous with wild rivers, sunny regions, and windy region far away from any town. Bitcoin mining as well, a breakthrough, is the only technology that avoids transportation costs. So it can challenge this energy around the globe, because you need Bitcoin miners going there. They bring electricity, they channel this energy, they mine Bitcoin, they create Bitcoin, and so this energy is channeled. And Bitcoin mining can channel energy around the globe, energy that otherwise will not be possible to channel. Again, here is not energy that is used from our houses or industrial, but it will be energy that otherwise will not be used. All miners, as I said, need to have is an internet connection and a source of energy. I also made a video, will be released the 3rd of September, Bitcoin mining. It will be the part 3 related to the series on Bitcoin mining as is stranded energy. Now, that's also even more important, maybe not important, but more to debunk the misconception. People think that Bitcoin mining is bad for the environment. In reality, it's helping in fighting climate change. I also made a video it will be released the 4th of September, just on that, because this is also even a more breakthrough, if we can say, or at the same level. Here I made the overview. Please refer to the video to understand maybe better or completely, let's say. Bitcoin mining is the only technology that's available, practical and scalable when it comes to tackling the world's most deadly greenhouse gas of 2022, methane. So releasing methane in the atmosphere is one of the worst things for climate change. Important to understand, methane who escape into the atmosphere unburned is 30 times more harming than carbon dioxide over a 100-year period. And methane is handled mostly landfills and in oil and gas industry. Important you fix this, that releasing methane unburned is about 30 times more harmful than releasing the carbon dioxide. Very important nuance in with methane emissions, and then methane in the form of natural gas, when is burned when it's firing up a gas heater or stove. When you flare the methane, is carbon positive because burning it releases carbon dioxide. When you flare methane, you will release carbon, or will create carbon dioxide that would otherwise not have escaped into the atmosphere. But methane that would have otherwise would have otherwise escaped in the atmosphere get burns is carbon negative because the carbon dioxide it produces, however harmful, is still a quantum less harmful than having methane escape into the atmosphere. In fact, if we can combust enough of this escaping methane in time, we might be able to avoid, say, a climate disaster. And the article related is also Bitcoin mining can prevent climate change. I also recommend to read it. I referenced this at the beginning. It means methane is harmful, and the best case will be to keep not in the atmosphere, not to put in the atmosphere. Why we are flaring it? Because it generates carbon dioxide that is 30 times less harmful. So it's much better to release carbon dioxide than methane. And methane is released in oil and gas industry and is in landfills. And generally, in fact, how this technology in oil and gas industry and landfills are what they are doing, they are flaring methane to be less harmful for the environment. So they are flaring it. But the problem is, whenever they're flaring it, 92% become this is wrong. It should be 92% will be carbon dioxide and 8% is methane. So please disregard this. It should be 92% carbon dioxide and 8% methane. So 8% of the methane is still is going into the atmosphere. And with Bitcoin mining, it can be combusted to create energy that can be converted in electricity and used for Bitcoin mining. In fact, Bitcoin mining is the only technology that can make use of the gas that is combusted, because landfills and oil and gas plants are far away from towns and transportation costs are too high to make combusting gas a profitable business. Without Bitcoin mining, these companies will never combust this because it's also too costly, because if they want, they can create energy, yes, but it's far away from everything, and they should spend millions in order to transport. But with Bitcoin, no, Bitcoin mining, no. It's like a stranded energy far away, and Bitcoin doesn't need transportation, so can use this energy. So what happens with Bitcoin mining is that the landfill and the oil and gas plant owners turns an environmental, regulatory, and economic liability till Bitcoin mining technology. This methane was a liability into an asset, because they can combust this asset. Thanks to a generator, they generate electricity, and they use this electricity to generate money, making the business even more profitable. So the oil and gas industry and the landfills can also earn money per kilowatt of electricity produced. And so we have the double benefit, reducing CO2 emissions and increasing the profitability. So in the ideal case, we should not release any methane or any carbon dioxide, but unfortunately, with oil and gas landfills are releasing methane. So far, we are flaring it, but 8% of the methane is still released. With combusting, it moved from 8% to 0.1%. And this 7.9% releasing carbon dioxide, it's much better, or is much less harmful for the environment. And this is just the start to be understood. The fun fact is that an environmentalist, in reality, he should be in favor of Bitcoin mining because it decreases the CO2 emissions. But in reality, most of the environmentalists are against Bitcoin mining because they have a poor knowledge of Bitcoin mining and of energy industry of the blockchain. And without this knowledge, they are not able to understand that Bitcoin mining is helping in fight. It will help in fighting to climate change. I also made a video, will be released at the 4th of September, exactly on this, as I said before, if you want to know more information. And this, I think, will take maybe months or 1 or 2 years for the society to be understood, because now in the common narrative, Bitcoin mining is bad for the environment and consume too much energy. Almost the last slide on Bitcoin mining. In this way, Bitcoin mining is not stealing energy from anything, but is adding energy to the total energy consumption. You can see here in the graph the correlation between real GDP per capita and the energy consumption per capita. So you see there is a direct correlation between how rich is a country and how much energy the country is using. And Bitcoin mining is adding energy to the total energy consumption. So Bitcoin mining is contributing to the flourishing of the society. And every time that humanity did a step forward from agricultural revolution to industrial revolution, we always use more energy. Just to be the example, so the washing machine, it consumes more energy, but is an advance. When we had the industrial revolution, we were consuming more energy, but it was a leap forward for humanity. And related to Bitcoin mining, I made firstly one video, is I think 67 minutes long, the 21st of June, only Bitcoin and energy consumption. And in September are coming 7 new videos. The last one will be the conclusion on Friday, the 9th of September. So now the third part is done, it's time for the conclusion. Firstly, what we have learned, I hope you understood in this video and will make you curious to learn more about Bitcoin. Firstly, Bitcoin is the best form of money we have ever had. Second, it will be the biggest store of value worldwide, and also the tool that will allow our society to flourish. For Bitcoiners, Bitcoin is an unstoppable way to become the biggest store of value. I will discuss a bit later then. Blockchain is the magic tool that allowed to solve the double spending problem and to allow sending value digitally and without a third party. Most of the tools used in blockchain were already available. Satoshi used them and added difficulty adjustment, making the system working for the first time in history. Bitcoin mining will add energy to the total energy produced, enabling a further development of our society, and Bitcoin mining will help to fight climate change. This is why I'm saying that Bitcoin is a technological, financial, and energetic leap forward for humanity. And on this slide, last but not least, Bitcoin mindset. I made also a 15-20 minutes video about the Bitcoiners mindset. At the moment, there is this crash of Bitcoin. People are they panic sold, they will never discuss about Bitcoin anymore. Firstly, in reality, the crash was nothing related to Bitcoin, especially this year. It was related to the meltdown of Terra Luna, and then lending platform and also lending companies were bankrupt. So it created a further crash, and people trading with leverage, they got liquidated, moving the price even down. But nothing from the Bitcoin value monetary proposition changed. Everything remained the same. Actually, it improved because every 10 minutes, the blockchain becomes stronger and stronger. More energy is used to validate the transaction, and Bitcoin is working as it was working in November. So what during this period, generally every person who understood Bitcoin, it was just, this is figuratively, like eating popcorn, drinking beer, meaning chilling, for sure not happy about the crash. No one was happy about the crash. I also was surprised that we went down to less than 30K. I was thinking we could have reached maybe 28K. That was the limit of 2021, but we reached 18K for Terra Luna, for other lending companies going bankrupt. But Bitcoin miners, they are here for the people who invest, not a financial advice, it's also for educational. They're holding every single Bitcoin they have. people who hold, there will be people who understood Bitcoin and people who didn't understand Bitcoin. But I guarantee you that every person who understood Bitcoin didn't sell any Satoshi or portion of Bitcoin in this crash. On the other side, they kept stacking SAT day after day or week after week or month after month. Bitcoiners are here for the long term. They know that it will take time, so they don't, for sure, they don't invest money. They need this day, this year, next years, but they are believing that Bitcoin price will go up in the long term, and they are not getting so upset. For sure, not happy about the crash, but also not penny selling. Why are believing that the Bitcoin price generally it will go up? Because we are still an early stage. For every commodity to become money, there were steps. Firstly, because it was becoming a digital collectible, then store of value, then medium of exchange, and then unit of account. We are still on the way between digital collectible, when it was collected just from few people working in the cyberpunks or people in computer science, now is on the way to become store of value. And becoming store of value means that it will reach the price of 400, 500K per Bitcoin if it takes the market of gold. But it could be that it doesn't stop there, because it has all the potential to become a medium of exchange and a unit of account. I say it again, it's not a financial advice. I'm just sharing what Bitcoin miners are thinking, Bitcoiners are thinking. Then it's up to you if you think that it makes sense to invest, and you are 100% responsible of every single euro or dollars you invest into Bitcoin. And in this presentation, I also want to say that I just discussed about Bitcoin, not a word related to any other crypto coin. It's only about Bitcoin. My personal opinion will be also, again, not a financial advice. I also written. I also create a video, shared a video when I was on holiday. Also, no, this was a previous one, sorry. In the video before, here is the Bitcoin mindset. And here we have Bitcoiners versus people with basic intermediate knowledge on Bitcoin. Here you will see if a person just have a basic or intermediate good knowledge, of a person really understood Bitcoin, which is the difference. And I recommend you to see this watch video is very interesting. So what I believe is Bitcoin becoming store of value and world reserve currency is just a matter of when, not of if. It's like when the car was invented, there were people who were saying, more than 90% were against the car at the beginning, but were people saying it will become the tool for transportation, the medium for transportation. And many people were complaining, now I say, no, we're arguing it will be the horse, so many things, the horse is better. But there were few people who understood that in the long term, the car will become the most important way of transportation. The same with electricity, the same with the internet. So for me, store of value will be just a when. Then it will become a medium of exchange in the countries with high inflation and in countries without remittances, for example, like El Salvador. And this, it has more chance to become, firstly, more a store of value, and secondly, medium of exchange because of the double or triple digit inflation. Then becoming medium of exchange in the Western world is an open question. I think many there, this is, we will see later on. It has all the potential to become medium of exchange in the Western world, but it depends from many factors. And we will be able to judge it better when it becomes a store of value. Once it becomes the store of value, first the volatility will be less, and it will be more likely to be used as medium of exchange. With this crash, for sure, now is not a good medium of exchange. But it's not that this crash, this volatility it means that it will never become a medium of exchange. No, it has to become a store of value. Once it's a store of value, it can become a medium of exchange. The real question is, has the potential to become medium of exchange? Yes, it has all the potentials, but we need time. And then if it reaches the level of medium of exchange worldwide, then it will become a unit of account, and everyone in the world will not think anymore in euros, dollars, yuan, or on other currency, but we will all think in satoshis. And if this happens, for me, for our society, it will be a second renaissance. Last slide, understanding is about understanding Bitcoin. Here is the video I created when I was on a holiday. My advice to people who are interested in Bitcoin. I recommend this if you're interested to learn more about Bitcoin. And understanding Bitcoin is a long journey. And I hope this video inspired you or contributed to inspire you to start or continue this great and fascinating journey. So thanks for the attention, and will be now time for a question and answer. But last but not least, remember, Bitcoin, fix the money, fix the world. Bye.